this even our system? No, but is it a regional district?
Yeah.
Chair Dickey, we're ready to go when you are.
Good, thank you, Ms. Kinnaman. And I'd like to make a land acknowledgement. I'd like to start this meeting by recognizing the homeland of the 30 First Nation communities of this area we now call the Fraser Valley Regional District, where we live, work, and learn. Important decisions that we make at a local government level can affect First Nation communities and Indigenous peoples and organizations in many different ways, both today and in the future. So as part of our collective responsibility, I commit that we continually examine the work we do to ensure that our project, plans, initiatives, and discussion are guided by the principles of inclusion, collaboration, and reconciliation. So with that in mind, I'd like to call to order the January 11th, 2024 meeting of the Electoral Area Services Committee. And it appears we are short some EA directors today.
Actually, Chair Dickey, Director Davidson is on the line. He just does not have his camera turned on, so you can't see him on the screen.
Good. There we go. Great. Thank you. I'll turn things to our CAO.
Thank you. So the first item on our agenda is your report from the Regional and Corporate Services Committee meeting.
Okay. So this morning, the chair at the RACS committee, we talked about the chairs and mayors committee, and Mayor Horde made a motion to dissolve the FERD chairs and mayors committees. The discussion, the argument was made that typically issues at the FERD should include representation from the electoral areas, and there was a unanimous support for dissolving that committee. We went on to speak about the invasive weed control program, resulted in some discussion, but consensus was that the program has met with a lot of success. There was then a discussion around the new BC Transit electronic fare collection system, and this is moving forward, and discussion was mostly regarding the logistics of putting this system in place. Then we went to the director's reports, and Mayor Pranger spoke regarding the need for the FERD to support Delta's push for a flood response strategy. And Director Johnson spoke regarding the success of the Red Cross helping out with people impacted by last summer's wildfires. That is my summary. Thank you, Ms. Kinnaman.
Thank you. So looking for approval of the agenda, addenda, and late items.
Motion moved Director Macahonic, second Director Adamo. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Contrary, the motion carries.
Item 5.1 is the Dogwood Valley Water System billing. We have a delegation by Paul Sidaway.
Welcome, Mr. Sidaway.
Thank you so much. You have before you three maps, please. The first one that you have, A, shows you three areas in which Dogwood Valley Dogwood Valley Water System is distributing water. At the very top, you'll see an outlined area in green, which is a proposed 47 campsite with 3 permanent homes, which has no billing attached to it at this point, obviously, but will in the future if it's approved. Dogwood Valley Camp you see, and then you see the residential area that's 22 lots. Only 18 of them are developed, and I've only used numbers of billing that apply to those lots. And then on your second map, B, you'll notice a new map that shows the new water system, and that water system goes over to bulk water sales or Yale First Nation. If you want to, you could write down the numbers that have happened in billing over the last 5 years. So Dogwood Valley Camp, the average billing for the 5-year period based on use is 76 cents a cubic meter. If you come over to the 18 residences that are using water by parcel tax and meter fee, they're paying $5.35 a cubic meter. And if you move over to the bulk water sales in Yale First Nation, their average cost is $1.74 a cubic meter. I'd like to read the next page, which you have, which is page 14. And this is taken from the Freedom of Information that gave me some of this information that I'm sharing with you today. So Schedule A, the bulk water rate should be calculated annually by a regional district and will be communicated to the band prior to October 1st. For clarity, the anticipated annual cost of the supply water shall be 90% of the estimated cost of the total system inclusive, but not limited to regional district staff time, etc. It is assumed that the remaining 10% of the total cost is allocated towards expenses related to distribution to regional district customers to which the band receives no benefit, etc., etc. Go on to the next page, page 1. According to FVRD Engineering and Utilities, it is necessary to maintain the entire responsibility for required revenue risk, my terminology. In 2023, 12/19, email from Tarak Islam states, we agree that for small utilities, we must have minimum charges in place to maintain a stable revenue stream. Here's an outline of the current and future billing for Dogwood Valley Water System. Bulk Water, Yale First Nation, pays for water by meter use only. If they cease to use, they pay nothing. No minimum charges required for revenue risk. Supplies water to homes, hydrants, lots, and commercial use. Dogwood Valley Camp pays for water by metered use and single parcel tax for the entire property. If they cease to use, they pay nothing. No minimum charges are required for revenue risk. Supplies water to homes, hydrants, and commercial use RV pads. Future accounts, proposed campsite, would pay my metered water single parcel tax on the entire 50 lots. If they cease to use, they pay nothing. No minimum charges for revenue risk. Would supply water to 33 permanent residents on 47 campsites. 18 residents pay for water by minimum use charge, use it or lose it, plus additional cost by metering if over the basic cubic meter allowance and parcel tax on each of the 18 properties. If all the properties ceased use in 2023, they would still have to pay $1,473 in parcel tax and $360 a year minimum use charge. The 18 residents are considered the base and have a minimum use charge and higher cubic meter rates to offset the entire Dogwood Valley required risk. Go on to the next page 7, Dogwood Valley system history. I've had concerns since 2017 and have asked FVRD for pertinent information and transparency regarding the use and revenue, and up until including 2023, have been told it is equitable, but we cannot give you numbers. And it was suggested I apply for freedom of information, which I did August the 1st, 2023. I asked for all and any financial history and any and all accounts, as well as communication and contracts. I received it mid-September and spent a month or more calculating the use and revenue for the 18 residential accounts and bulk water and commercial accounts. The first system was built out in 2014 for 22 residential lot group, and not all lots are developed or attached. Capital cost for the first system was $68,850. Total cost $71,000. So that was also connected was the Dogwood Valley Camp, now assessed for commercial billing. At the time, the revenue was parcel tax by single tax for the entire property and a $45 quarterly minimum fee. The exception being October 10th, 2017, when the minimum use charge was removed for Dogwood Valley Camp, and they are only billed by use now. In 2017, a sign went up saying fresh water coming, $199,000, funded by FVRD, BC government, and Canadian government. When I asked Director Adamson why there hadn't been any information presentations from FVRD, he said the project was covered by grants, so it wasn't required. We never received any direct contact from FVRD regarding this project until it was up and functioning, when we got a letter telling us to contact insurance as our fire protection was improved due to the new system. I did follow up, but it didn't result in any lower insurance rate. Skip the next paragraph. The upgrades required to DVWS were the addition of a reservoir, excuse me, after the water gap analysis, and a requirement of Fraser Health to connect to SCADA system. Skip that part. As we know, this was not just an upgrade for us from the very beginning. It was also designed for future development to supply bulk water sales to future accounts. So it's no longer our little community it served, and yet the billing, parcel tax, and minimum utility charge, use the cubic meter water or lose it remains. under the current billing system, that even if the 18 residents ceased water consumption completely, they would still have to pay a parcel tax and minimum use charge, in which the amounts you're about to see. Whereas if bulk water and commercial use ceases, they pay nothing. That also applies to future bulk water commercial accounts per Truex email. The argument that we should be the residential rates, try to speed through this. The argument that 18 residential owners should be the financial base is vastly inequitable and needs to end today. Let's look at the numbers. So now we go to page 4. Cost comparison 2018 to the first half of 2023. Bulk water sales, Yale First Nation, 61,143 cubic meters. Cost 106,694.70. Average rate over the 5.5 years, $1.74. Residential rates use 17,998. Cost $104,102. Average rate $5.35. And then after 2023, $7.14 a cubic meter. Skip through down and look at the difference in the years as to what we would have paid if we had been charged the bulk rates. So as you move through from 2000 to 2023, you can see the gradual increase in our expenses to pay to FVRD. In 2023, the rate that you're looking at in 2023 is half of a year. So in the difference between 2023 and 2022 is actually a 60% increase over the previous year. And you can decide for yourself whether that's equitable. Let's move on to page 5, Dogwood Valley Camp. Use $7,779, cost $5,272.78. Average rate 76 cents a cubic meter. Use residential lots, same. And then you go down what our costs would have been, 2018, 19, so on and so on. And the differences in what we would have paid. If we had paid the same amount as Dogwood Valley Camp, it would have been $13,678 instead of $104,102. And when we go back to the other, go back to Yale First Nation. I don't have my number there, the differences, but anyway, it's significant. I think it's $60,000. So then let's go to page 6. If the spending of $65,455 for Dogwood Valley in 2014, and then $901,000, which is what the actual capital costs were to put in the new system. So if that was necessary, then it wasn't just for us. It was for future development and for bulk water sales. And we should have been removed from the use it or use a minimum user charge, and some other system should have been put into place to protect us from this inequity. I can't use any other words for it. It should never have been to a base to maintain a stable revenue stream, to quote Turek again. The new system should not have us held as this through a parcel tax and minimum user fee. If the reset had shifted to balanced billing by use instead of, we should be only charged by use and some other means. But anyway, if the reset had shifted from balanced billing to use instead of paying $104,102 compared to bulk water sales, we would have billed $40,000, $39,758. All of my mail responses, thank you Sterling and thank you Turek, have clearly stated that the billing system is inequitable. I believe it would be equitable for FVRD to return the difference in billing to the 18 residents from FVRD surplus and reserves for not creating a billing plan for all accounts to spread the risk and cost equitably. That amounts to $64,343 by cost comparison, 2018 to 2023, 18 residents to bulk water sales. Also, I believe it's time to consider the inequities and eliminating the inequities by eliminating the minimum utility charge and parcel tax immediately, and a new revenue system spreading the cost and risk between all accounts in place. Remember, please, that the other accounts that we're talking about are not residential entirely. They're basically commercial enterprises as well. Revenue collection. Use by meter only, billing applied. So if we looked at it and said revenue collection, if it's used by metered billing applied to all. So this is an option that could happen, that we just have an annual revenue requirement, and then dividing it historically the same way that Turek and Sterling are doing right now, taking a projection and creating a use charge that they do the same thing as bulk water sales to us, and get rid of the parcel tax. Or I think a better option, because it supplies a stable revenue base, is revenue collection. Establish a fixed quarterly system connection fee, but this has to apply to all lots. So for example, with the church camp, they have a number of RV pads and so on and so forth. And if they were to charge $75 a quarter or $25 a month, for each of those pads, that would be the same as what's happening to us with our billing system with metered water use. So there's lots of options in order to make this equitable. I don't know why it hasn't happened to date. So if all of that was to happen with it, we would look at some numbers that make sense, and they would make it equitable, and it would provide the revenue base. So let me read that again. Revenue collection based on a fixed quarterly system connection fee and not a parcel tax. And I understand that there's issues with, the contracts that have already been signed in 2023. So, those need to be addressed equitably too. But let's go on with it. Applied to all lots.
Mr. Setaway, you're well past the 10-minute mark.
Oh, sorry.
Here, so maybe we could.
We're done. Anyway, this last
close,
page.
But
Thank you.
yeah, thank you very much. I will look to our directors to any discussion they'd like to have.
I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
No, and you can stay up here if there's any questions that people might have for you.
Firstly, thanks through the chair. Thanks very much, Paul, for your presentation. Paul's been working on this diligently for the last number of years and prior to my coming on board. So it's been a learning curve for me as well, trying to learn all about the water systems, both in that area and other areas. And so I know that your community, your representatives really appreciate all that you've done with this, and they put a lot of trust and faith in you, and you've come through for it. Having said that, there's still a lot of work to do and a lot of things for us all to go through in trying to understand all of this as well. So
Absolutely.
We really greatly appreciate that. And there probably will be some questions that come as a result of that. You may not hear any today, but thanks once again for taking the time to come down in this weather and make the presentation on behalf of your community.
Thank you.
Yep. Good. Thank you, Director Adamo. Other directors' comments? Director McAhon.
Just thought it was really informative and well put together and easy to understand the way you put it together. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director McAhon. Director Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for presentation and certainly all the information you provided, much appreciated. I guess my question really is, obviously I look at this and I have no answer right now because it's brand new. What might the next steps look like from a FVRD perspective?
Yeah, maybe a staff person might want to direct us and how we can move forward with this.
Chair Dickey, first we would be looking for direction from the committee, but I will just, if there is any. However, I will just look to Sterling and Turek, and perhaps they would like to comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have this information now. We will go through them, and perhaps we will sit down with Paul and kind of try to understand where he's coming from, and also have some of the information that we have and share with him.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Islam.
To the chair,
Sterling.
Director.
Mr. Chan, excuse me.
Without kind of getting into the numbers, just a general comment on the overall concept of billing for per use and, maintaining these stable revenue streams. So a small water system such as the Dogwood Valley water system, we have really high fixed costs with it and really low variable costs. So fixed costs meaning our staff time, asset management costs, sampling, etc. We still have to sample twice, on a regular schedule, no matter what, right? Variable costs would be stuff that would depend on water consumption or the water produced by the water system. So hydroelectricity, disinfection chemicals, etc. So because most of the costs are fixed cost, it is really important for a small water system like this to have a stable source of revenue. So our revenue streams need to be fixed in a way. So we can't have we can't have a lot of volatility in our revenue streams that you might see with a consumption only type of system. With larger water systems, say for example like the Area D water system, we can rely more heavily on user fees and bill more based on consumption because there is just a much larger customer base, and so that revenue stream, when averaged over several hundred customers, is much more stable year to year. With such a small system like Dogwood, you have a couple of people use a lot of water or move out of town and shut off their water, like your revenue either spikes or collapses, but we still have our same fixed costs. So I just wanted to provide that context to why we look to have a stable revenue stream with this small of a utility.
Can I reply?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Sidaway. Yeah,
Thank
if you can make it brief, please.
Yeah, very brief. That argument doesn't really fly for me because the SCADA system that was installed to manage the system in certain ways, it's costs $20,000 to put in and it costs $350 a month to run. Does a lot of the maintenance that you're talking about, and this system wasn't designed. We had two requirements. One was that we needed a reservoir for the 18 lots in the Dogwood Valley camp, and we needed to be connected to a SCADA system. This $901,000 system wasn't designed for us, and it isn't our responsibility to have 18 residents responsible for this financial base because of maintenance costs. The maintenance costs are not that high. And I refer you back to page 14, Schedule A, bulk water rate, to what the payment plan was. 90% was a fixed charge to bulk water sales and 10% to the residents. Now, why would that be put into place as it wasn't an effective plan? And that's all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sidaway. I see Director Davidson would like to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Just having been through sort of similar discussions in the Hazard Prairie water system in the past, when you come to any service area, you come to the sort of big question, like for taxation purposes, not user fees, is it going to be a parcel tax or assessment based? And for Hazard Prairie, for example, we went parcel tax, and probably the main driver there is that you've got a large proportion of agricultural properties that there's no way that an assessment-based one is going to come close to something equitable. So you settle on parcel as being the next best thing. I'm just curious, for Dogwood Valley, are there any sort of similar constraints on doing assessment-based taxation? And that way you sort of, you make the assumption that a larger value commercial property like Dogwood Valley Camp would bear a larger proportion of potentially the fixed costs. Is there some barrier to going to like assessment based versus parcel tax based? I do have one other question as well.
Okay, thank you, Director Davidson. Rather specific question for staff.
We'll see if our engineering team can answer that question at this point in time.
If you give me a few minutes, I can pull up the bylaw and see if an assessment-based tax would be permissible under the service area bylaw. I just need a second to pull that up.
Actually, let me wind that question back a little bit, because this isn't the right place to get into these kinds of details. It's just something that stream of consciousness that I probably should have saved. But the other question I do have is that I noted that it sounds like, if I have the story right, that there was some upgrades that were done in anticipation of future expansion of future customers that aren't paying into it right now. Is that correct? And if so, is the mechanism for recouping those costs is basically through standard latecomer fees, or just what was the thought there?
Can I answer that?
It's through to staff.
Well, let staff an opportunity to respond.
So we'll have our engineering team respond to that question as to the upgrades that occurred.
Certainly. Through the chair to Director Dickey, the upgrades that we're referring to would be the new reservoir that was installed in that water system back in 2018. It's a 430 cubic meter reservoir, of which fire flow composes 377 cubic meters. So in other words, of this reservoir that was built, the vast majority of the water contained within is for fire flow, and very little of it is for balancing. In other words, the reason this thing is as big as it is for fire protection, and that doesn't matter whether there's 18 lots or 200 lots. The fire flow requirement is 60 liters per second for 1.4 hours.
And as far as residents receiving any kind of benefit from that fire flow, on the insurance side, I take it I know that the fire underwriter survey is notoriously slow in updating their systems. Is that, you may not know, you may not.
I can
I don't know
answer.
if you have any comments there. Sure.
Yeah, we'll let staff attempt to answer that.
Certainly. So I can confirm that staff has provided the fire underwriter survey this information through their portal. So as far as FUS is concerned, this reservoir exists. They're aware of the fire protection that it provides. I don't know what insurance discounts different providers would be giving their clients.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chan. So, Mr. Sidaway, you've done a great job of increasing the awareness of this situation. And these small water systems, it's not unusual for them to be very challenged financially. When you have such few users and you're trying to maintain a certain standard, the costs are onerous, and that is typical. However, you've done a great job of making people aware of the challenges facing you and your fellow users. Got great representation from Director Adamo, who I'm sure will pursue this on your behalf. And staff are very aware of the challenges with these systems, and they'll be quite happy to work with you, I'm sure, to try and find a better way forward. So we certainly appreciate your presentation today, and are optimistic that we can move forward and have you well represented.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chair Dickey. So the next item on our agenda is 6.1, which is building bylaw contraventions at 47850 Ash Road in Electoral Area A.
Okay. We have a notice of title situation here.
That's right. So there is a motion for your consideration, and then you could make the opportunity available for members of the public to speak to this item.
Good. So we're looking for a motion. Director Johnson moves, second Director Dixon. Is there anyone amongst the public that would like to speak to this issue? Welcome. Maybe if you could give us your name and address, please.
I'm representing Anita here. I'm from Huang. The address is 47850 Ash Road.
Good. Thank you. Go ahead.
We're trying to figure out like what are the procedures that we're supposed to go through, like get a permit and all that stuff, or getting a demolish permit. Like how long do we have if we do get a demolish permit?
So this is a very complex situation, as we are made aware of through the history of this issue. So it really isn't in a meeting setting to detail all the complexities of how best to go forward. This is a situation where our local government deems it necessary that a notice be put on the title of the land so that if anyone were to purchase the property in the future, for example, that they would be aware that certain bylaws had not been followed and certain permits may have not been taken out for construction.
Okay.
So it's really just to protect people in the future as to the situation in the history of this property. You understand?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is it's what's called a notice on title. It goes onto the title. If in the future the landowner were to carry out the permitting that's required, et cetera, and brings it into compliance, then that notice could be removed from the title. Okay, and staff, maybe you could correct me if I'm not giving the correct information. If I had Mr. Downs.
Quite correct. Your interpretation is correct, Chair. And if I could say through you to the homeowners, after this item's considered by the committee today, perhaps our staff could sit down with you down on the second floor and we can review the steps required to obtain and finalize a building permit for the structure.
Okay.
Okay, good.
All right, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you for appearing before us today.
All right, thank you.
Any discussion, directors? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion? We have made a motion? Yeah. Okay. All in favor, contrary, motion carries. Thank you.
Item
Next,
7.1 is the draft Electoral Area Services Committee meeting minutes of December 7th, 2023.
motion, move Director Adamo, second Director Dixon, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, contrary, motion carries.
7.2 is draft Electoral Area Services Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of December 12th, 2023.
Motion, move Director Castle, second Director Wardenberg, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, contrary, motion carries.
8.1 is the 2024 Rural Property Tax Naming Update. This is an information item, but we're happy to answer any questions.
Any discussion, directors? Hearing none, we will move forward. Thank you.
8.2 is the 2024 Grant and Aid Request for the Desroches and District Community Association in electoral areas C and G.
So moved.
Move Director Castle, second Director Wardenberg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, contrary, motion carries.
9.1 is the Complete Communities 2023-2024 grant application for electoral areas A and B.
For a motion, move Director Adamo, second Director Johnson, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, contrary, motion carries.
Moving down to reports by electoral area directors.
Okay, maybe we will start out with Director Johnson. Just to keep you on
Thank
your
you.
toes.
Thank you, Chair. Basically just a repeat from this morning's meeting. And you touched on it already that the Red Cross is providing a support program for the uninsured households who were impacted by the 2023 wildfires. So this program provides a one-time lump sum with the amount being dependent on a few criteria to ensure equitability and need. So I referred the families that were affected in my area by the Kukupee fire, and the Red Cross has started the process of contacting them, and some have already been accepted into the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Johnson. Director Dom.
Oh, sure. It's been actually a really busy start to the new year with plenty of meetings throughout the entire area. One of the things that came up of a concern that I'd like to bring up, I did bring up earlier, but we had a situation with our fire department in the Sunshine Valley recently where a call out for an emergency occurred, and BCAS refused to come to the scene because of a lack of addresses and street signage in one of the new developments in the Sunshine Valley. And it's worth bringing up for the simple fact that this can no longer happen. We lost critical minutes to save a man's life because of a situation like this. So I'm asking for help from staff on this and how to pursue it further. I have had discussions 2 days ago with Ministry of Transportation on trying to solve this, but I just wanted to put it on record that this is something that is very critical to our area right now. That's really all I have to say in terms of updates, but thanks very much.
Sounds like an important situation. Thank you, Director Adamo. Director Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, yes, the holiday season has come and gone, and I was just delighted to participate in the Lindell Beach Residents Association Polar Bear Swim. And I got invited. What could I do? That water was mighty cold, but it was a fine event put on. Lots of people were there, and Columbia Valley Fire Department was there just in case. And fortunately, they weren't needed for any kind of medical support, so that was great. But it really was a lot of fun. Actually, I've got some fun ones here. Columbia Valley also has started a pickleball league, or pickleball event, I guess, which is super popular. And so that's been a real asset for our community. And the neighbors down at Creekside and Cottages and those type of places, Lindell Beach, are participating and coming up. And it's definitely community building, but it's also a little bit of fundraising. So that's going really well. Blue Creek continues to create some interest. We've got a meeting next week just with the developers to see what the long-term plan is and how that project's going to, I guess, fill out or along the way. But thankful that there's things happening, and we shall see where we're going. The Columbia Valley Ratepayers is writing a letter to several ministries as well as the landowner on the American side, just to express concerns, and I have one just about ready for approval as well. And also another thing, I met with FireSmart with Mr. Schellenberg recently, and just setting up some work with the Cultus Lake Park Board to find a community project in an area that we'd like to sort of make a little more FireSmart in the summer. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's it for me.
Always busy in Cultus, Columbia Valley. Yes. No. Director McIntyre.
Hope that roof stays on. Sounds like it's gonna blow off. Sounds like our roof's gonna blow off here, so it's pretty noisy for those that aren't here. Anyways, so start out with FireSmart, and I don't know if I shared last time, we have our second FireSmart neighborhood, and just gonna be putting our sign up in Slessie, and we have a new community champion has identified themselves for Bell Acres, so we'll be starting on our third FireSmart neighborhood for Area E, so we're happy about that. So been working with a group of residents that have been impacted by the atmospheric rivers and slides and floods, and we have had no word from the province yet, so still working on that. And did talk to our MLA just before Christmas, and again said she wasn't at liberty to say anything about it, but it's being worked on. But it's little to no consolation for the residents that are dealing with this 2 years later. We are continuing on with our stakeholders meeting for the homelessness and situation and camps situation in Area E. And this week, at the beginning of the week, Maitland Smith with the CO service reported that they some of the residents were giving orders to vacate from the CO service. And between the CO service and Parks and Recreation came in and did move people on. And then they also did some major cleanup in 2 areas. One is a very big abandoned camp up by Thurston. And some of the residents a couple have moved up closer to Post Creek, but RCMP community policing are working to monitor that. And then we also have outreach workers in the community that are working to try and find alternative housing and resources. So it's actually working really well. So that's quite heartening for us. We've had 4 grant and aids related to the cleanup fund. So that's hopeful as well. And anyone that is interested in doing any cleanup activities that's able to access them through a nonprofit or a community group is welcome to apply for that. So with that, that's everything I have.
Sounds like a busy place too. Thank you, Director Makahonic. Director Castle.
Thank you, Chair Dickey. Nothing to report, though I do want to just apologize that I didn't get my hand up in time on item 8.1. I do want to thank staff for their work on the property tax naming update. I know that a number of residents in Area G were hoping to have a little bit more clarity on their tax notice. And I think that the work the staff's doing on this is bang on, and I appreciate the work being done. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Director Castle. I hope I didn't miss you on 8.1. Thanks. Director Wardenberg.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just quickly, congratulations on the first baby born in Chilliwack. Was actually from Harrison Mills. Congratulations to Chloe and Matt and their new daughter, Naomi. Who happens to be fairly close neighbors of mine. And also one other thing is with the help of Mother Nature, Sasquatch Mountain is set to open tomorrow. And that's all I got. Thanks.
Well, better late than never. Thank you, Director Wardenberg. Director Davidson.
Nothing, Chair. Thanks.
Good. That's what I've got too. Is nothing to add. Thank you, Ms. Kinnaman.
So item 13 is public question period for items relevant to the agenda. And we would just offer the opportunity for members in the boardroom or online to raise their hand online or come before the podium to ask a question of the committee.
Thank you. We do have one member of the public joining us by Zoom today, and this would be your opportunity to ask a question. Just hit that raise hand function. And it would appear that we have no questions and we can move to the next item.
Thank you, Ms. Van Ness. Ms. Kinnaman.
So item 14 is a motion for adjournment.
Sounds nice. Move Director Dixon, second Director Adamo. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Oh, Director Dick or Macahonic's light is on. How exciting. It appears we do have no discussion. All in favor, contrary, motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Almost at a